Hi AP, this is Mr. Austin here, and we are going to review some of your answers and responses in the Triads and Root Position voice leading packet. Okay, so while I get frame 294 set up and ready to go, please turn to that one now. Okay, so in this one, what we have to do is look at this second chord here and determine the triad simply by looking at the bass. So our bass note is A, so we need to build an A-C-E triad. That was the main problem with some responses, is we weren't quite sure what triad to build. So some of the notes that were plugged in the tenor and the alto voices did not actually make a triad. And now we can have some fun and plug and play some of these notes. So let's see, here's our root, and the root is doubled in the soprano voice. So we need a third, which would be the C, and we need the fifth, which would be the E. So supposing I put the C in the alto and the E in the tenor, would that work? No, because you have voice crossing. But what if I brought the tenor E down the octave? No, because you have more than an octave here between the tenor and the alto. So there's one way to do this, and one way only. And that would simply be to have the alto sing the E, which is the fifth, and have the tenor sing the C. Remember, I can have any distance not exceeding 2 octaves between the bass and the tenor. So that was the main issue with frame number 294, number 1. Okay, in the second example, pretty much the same thing. Here we have A and a D, and we have a D, and then we have an F. In the second chord, I've got a D in the bass and an A in the soprano. So what's my triad going to be? D, F, A. Once I figured out the triad, then I can put the voice parts in. Root, third, fifth. The root must be doubled, but I can't do that because it's more than an octave between the tenor and the alto, and besides, that D is very, very low for the tenors to sing. So if I put the D up here, it's doubled. Okay, let's move on to frame 295. So for frame 295, again, it was simply a matter of realizing the triad. Some of us put incorrect letters. So let's review frame 295, number 1. This is number 1. Where I have the soprano singing a B, the alto singing a G, the tenors are up on an E, and the bass is singing an E down the octave. In my next chord, sopranos are going to go to the G, while the bass remains on an E. Look at the bass note, spell the triad from there. E, G, B. There's my root. There's my third. So I need another root, and then I need a fifth. Altos can sing the E, and tenors can sing the B. That is an okay interval, because that is a fourth. Anything above a fourth might constitute some reworking there of your voice parts. And check all your rules and make sure everything is good. Okay, so let's move on to frame 296. Okay, in frame 296, I am going to put my soprano and alto, my bass, and my tenor in the first chord. And the second chord, we are left to plug in the alto and the tenor voice. I'm going to show you now what somebody did, and we can figure out if it's right or what needs to be fixed. So we chose to double the root with the tenor, so they're both singing this A, and then we would just need to add in the C. And here you can see that there's a problem there because that is exceeding an octave. And that's forbidden. Which means we've got to change it. And what we should do is change it by having the tenors sing the C and the alto staying on the A for smoother voice leading. And now this one is good to go. Let's look at frame 297. So for frame 297, they wanted you to change structure or spacing on the second chord. So if we examine number 1 of 297, soprano's on an E, alto's on a G, tenor's on a B, bass on an E. You have to first determine what structure that is. And that is open structure. Therefore, they're going to want closed structure in the second chord. With the given notes, a B for soprano and an E for the bass. So remember, when we're dealing with closed structure, we cannot fit any chord tone, any elements of the chord, between any of the pitches in the upper 3 voices, meaning soprano, alto, and tenor. So work from the top down and put your G right there in the alto, which will be very nice for the altos to sing because it's going to be retained in that voice. And then the next chord tone for this triad, E, G, B, going down would be for the tenors to sing and E. And you'll also know that there is our doubling of the root. 2 E's, 1/3 the G, and then 1/5 the B. So that was the issue with that one. Okay. Moving on to frame 298. This is what our triad looks like in an SATB setting. And you were asked to find the error with the part writing. So what you can do, if you need to, on a need basis only, is to do what I'm doing. Okay, so there's a root, check. Root is doubled. There's the 3rd, and there's the 5th. In the 2nd chord, we've got the root, we've got a root, we've got another root, and we've got the 3rd. So the problem with this 2nd chord is that there is no 5th. In frame 299, we also need to find the part writing error. In the 2nd chord. C, G, C, E. It looks as if I do have 2 roots, 1/3 and 1/5, which means now we have to check to see if there are things like crossed voices, the upper voice is not exceeding an octave. And what we find is that in this 2nd chord, the interval right here between the alto and the tenor exceeds an octave, which is forbidden. So how would one fix that? Well, we could make it static and bring the octave down to the G and bring this up to the C. So that's the first part of the packet that I wanted to go over with you today. And we'll be watching more videos now, going over some additional frames. Thanks for watching.